Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Misty Miller. My channel is named The Fifth Dimension. It was created to be able to have a conversation about stories, encounters, experiences with heaven, hell, angels, demons, anything that has to do with the supernatural, mysterious, those things that we really have not come to know completely and fully, and I don't think that we ever will. I think that people have experiences, and I want to hear stories. I want to hear other people's encounters, things that they have seen and felt and know for themselves to be true. So let's get into the story. I had an encounter in 2012 with Yeshua. That's what I like to call him now. This is really legitimately like the first real undone experience that I had with him, and I had not known him before. I heard of him because I grew up in church, and it was the God of my father, and I did not know God. I went to church and I was basically not interested as a child. I swore to myself that when I got old enough and I moved out of the house, I would not go to church again because it was just not interesting to me. There was nothing attractive about it, nothing that was life-changing to me. And I shared in a prior video that I got off on the wrong path and started to do drugs pretty regularly, I would say every day, until I was about, 28 years old. So let's backtrack to 2012. This was probably about the 5th time in rehab, and I'm just being real with you guys. I struggled very, very hard to get off drugs because it was something that was so long. It took many, many years for me to really get my heart in a place to where I wanted change, and I was just fed up. And even after this experience, I ended up relapsing, which is just crazy and absurd to even think about because of the level of glory that I experienced when I met Jesus and he walked into the room. So let's backtrack again. 2012, I was admitted into a rehab in Bastrop, Texas. I made the choice to detox and get clean, and this was I wouldn't say probably, this was one of the last times that I was in rehab. This was really coming to a head and getting to the end of my journey at this point in my life with drugs. I had been admitted. I was just kind of give you guys like a little setup of how us ladies were housed. There was probably about 8 girls. There was a mama of the house, and she believed in the supernatural, thank God, because when I told her what happened, she just began to weep. So I was going to bed. We had to go to bed at 10 o'clock, and the whole rehab was locked down. We could not leave in the middle of the night. There was also a sister in the room, she was like the older sister. She had been there for a while. She was responsible for getting up and checking the rooms, making sure that all the girls were there in the middle of the night. So I go to bed, and I'm just like, this is about day 3 to where I'm just so I'm just undone by the choices that I made. I'm just filled with condemnation and shame and just all those emotions that I had repressed for so many years. It was like a floodgate opened, and I cried. It was probably about 2 hours in of just crying and really repenting and experiencing godly sorrow. And I was asking God to forgive me and not understanding how he could have such mercy on me, considering my life, considering the path that I had chosen. I was really fed up with myself. I was really fed up with my life and just how everything was unfolding for me. I was going nowhere. I couldn't get myself together. My kids were just kind of in and out. I had them as much as I could, but they would end up staying with my mom or my sister, my stepmom and my dad, or their grandmother. So it was pretty rough. I really had to face myself and the decisions that I made. And so about 2 hours in, after ugly crying, and I was like, it was ugly crying. I was like snotting everywhere and just like crying. My eyes were swollen. And as I'm laying in bed crying and talking to the Lord, he physically walked into the room. And when I looked up, it's like everything changed in that moment, where Kim Walker talks about when you walk into the room, everything changes. It literally, that is legitimately what I had experienced in that moment. I was laying there and I looked up, and it was like a bright light was shining, and I was like squinting because I was like, what is that? And I was looking, and all of a sudden this like warmth began to just like flow over me. It was like a stream of water, like this warm, like cleansing water. It wasn't aggressive, like it didn't feel aggressive or rough or violent. It was like this peaceful, resting warmth came over me. And I looked at him, and he didn't say anything. He just looked at me, and his eyes were like fire, and his garment was made of light, and he just emanated this warmth and this like peace around him. And I know in him, and it was like waves of how the only way I can explain it is word. He was the word. He was light, and he didn't say anything with his words, but his heart was exploding with love for me. And he walked over to the bed, and he took his hand and placed it behind my neck, and he pressed me into his chest. And when he did, I just went limp because I was so weighty. I was so heavy and burdened from all of these decisions, all of the choices that I had made from my past, and just filled with regret and shame. And I'm telling you, when he held me, all of that just, I mean, it was like it broke off of me. And I don't know how long he held me for. I fell asleep in his arms, and the next morning I woke up, and the sister, remember I told you about the sister of the rehab, got up, and she was like, where, did you leave last night? And I said, no, I did not. And she said, well, that's funny because you were not in your bed. And I said, well, what time did you get up? And she said, it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And then all of a sudden, like all of that rushed back into my memory, and I just fell to the ground and began to cry. And I told her what happened. And she went and told, she told the mama of the house, who thankfully believed me, and she was so overwhelmed with the story. And she rejoiced and she wept that Jesus, you know, he would be so merciful and so kind and so loving and such a lover of our soul. And that was that moment. Oh, I wanted to share with you, there was a scripture that says that our lives are now hidden in God with Christ. He actually covered me, and he hid me in his presence. So when she got up, I was actually physically not there. I was hidden with him. And that was the moment that I realized that this is different, because, you know, I would have expected him to come in and say, well, look at the bed you made. Look what you've done, and reprove me and correct me and lay into me for all the choices that I've made. But he didn't say a word. All he did was love on me and embrace me and hold me and let me know that he knows me and that everything's going to be okay. That he is the Prince of Peace, and he loves me, and that's just who he is. He can't help himself. And so anyway, thank you for joining my story today. I will be having my husband soon, hopefully. So if you can subscribe to my channel and like my video, I would really appreciate it. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear about your encounters. I have a few more. There's some stories that I've been researching and looking at that I want to talk about and maybe get your opinion on it. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you again. Thanks.